The tea was lukewarm, much like my feelings toward the two strangers standing in our foyer. My mother, radiant with a desperate kind of hope, hovered near a man named Richard. Beside him stood Ruth, a boy who, in another life, would eventually wrap his hands around my throat because I cared too much about his future. In the original story, this was where the nagging sister archetype began. I was supposed to see his rebellious scowl and think, I can fix him. I was supposed to lecture him about his grades and pull him away from the wrong crowd. Not this time. I'm not his moral compass. I'm Piper, and I'm just a girl trying to get into a good university. Piper, honey, come say hi, Mom beamed. This is Richard and his son, Rue. We're all going to be a family now. I set my teacup down with a soft clink. In the original timeline, I had jumped up and tried to take Rue's bags, lecturing him on how he shouldn't slouch. Today, I stayed seated. Welcome, I said, my voice smooth and utterly neutral. I've cleared the left side of the hallway closet for your coats. Richard, it's nice to see you again, Rue. I gave him a brief, polite nod. Rue stared at me, his eyes narrowed, bracing for the lecture he'd grown used to from his biological mother. He waited for the judgment on his ripped jeans, or the cigarette tucked behind his ear. Your room is the one at the end of the hall, I added, picking up my biology textbook. The Wi-Fi password is on the fridge. If you'll excuse me, I have a practice exam to finish. I walked upstairs without looking back. I didn't see the flicker of confusion in his eyes. He was a non-entity to me. A ghost in a house I was planning to leave the moment I graduated. As the months bled into a year, the distance between us became a canyon. I lived by a strict, quiet rhythm. My life, 5 a.m., wake-ups, Pilates with Mom, and a 4.0 GPA. His life, 2 a.m. arrivals, shouting matches with Richard, and a trail of empty energy drink cans. You're such a goody two-shoes. Let me guess, you want to point out that I should probably not drink or smoke too much? That I should study and work hard in school, he hissed, leaning against the counter. He was such a walking contradiction. In this life, I had never commented on his lifestyle. He knew, deep down, that he was doing something wrong. Instead of changing, he tried to get me to tell him to change, so he would have someone to hate or blame for his rebellion. After all, it's not much of a rebellion if no one is trying to stop you. I poured my drink into a thermos. It's your life, Rue. You're an adulter, close enough to one. Why would I care what you do with it? He flinched as if I'd slapped him. In the old life, my meddling was the fuel for his fire. Without it, he was just a boy failing in a vacuum. The gossip started reaching me through the school hallways like static on a radio. Did you hear Rue got suspended for the 3rd time? I heard he's hanging out with those guys from the auto shop who deal on the side. I didn't engage. I was too busy being named valedictorian. At dinner, the atmosphere was toxic. Richard would yell about legacy and responsibility, while Mom would look at me for support. I would just pass the salt. Piper, Richard said one night, his face purple. Can't you talk to him? He listens to you, does he? I asked mildly. We hardly speak. I'm focused on my Yale application. I think Rue is old enough to choose his own company. Rue, sitting across from me with a fresh bruise on his cheek, looked at me with something that felt like desperation. He wanted me to fight him. He wanted me to care enough to be the villain in his story. I refused to give him the satisfaction. I moved out the day after graduation and never looked back. My social media feed was a curated gallery of internships in London, hiking in the Alps, and my eventual law school graduation. But I kept a burner account to check in on the wreckage I left behind. He was picked up for possession again, Piper, she whispered, picking at her salad. Richard spent his retirement fund on the lawyers. He doesn't seem to want to get better. He keeps saying everyone gave up on him. Choices have consequences, Mom, I said, squeezing her hand. Let's talk about our trip to Tuscany instead. It happened on a cold Tuesday. I was in my office on the 22nd floor, overlooking the city, when the air in the room suddenly felt heavy and distorted. I knew it then, he had remembered. He had remembered our past life and would probably come seeking me out. But I was not his sister. I would not interfere as she had, and I had no right to forgive him on her behalf. Far across town, in a damp studio apartment smelling of rot and stale smoke, Rue woke up screaming. The memories hit him like a physical blow. The other life. The one where I was the annoying sister. He remembered me crying as I begged him to come home. He remembered me bringing him soup when he was sick. He remembered the feeling of the knife in his hand and the look of betrayal in my eyes as I died. He remembered hating my kindness because it felt like a mirror to his own failures. But then he looked around his current reality. In this life, I hadn't nagged him, I hadn't saved him, I hadn't even looked at him. I had treated him like a stranger, and in doing so, I had let him walk straight into the fire he had built for himself. He scrambled for his phone, his hands shaking, and looked up my name. There I was, Piper Vance, Senior Associate. Radiant, successful, and completely, utterly happy without him. He realized then that my nagging in the previous life wasn't an attack, it was a lifeline. And in this life, by being polite and distant, I had given him exactly what he thought he wanted, total freedom, and that freedom had destroyed him. He watched a video I'd posted of a charity gala. I was laughing, clinking glasses with a handsome man. I looked like a queen. He looked at his own reflection in the cracked screen of his phone, gaunt, gray, and forgotten. He began to weep, but I couldn't hear him. I was already moving on to my next meeting. The ghost of the brother who killed me finally laid to rest in a grave of his own making. Thank you all so much for watching Piper's journey from a tragic end to a triumphant new start. If you enjoyed watching Rue finally connect the dots, even if it was a little too late, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more transmigrator stories like this one.